Hi, I'm Robert Bacall, and I'm back with session 6 of our Diffusing Angry Customers free online video seminar. And just to remind you, the content and stuff we're going to be talking about is from this book. If it wasn't for the customers, I'd really like this job. Stop angry, hostile customers cold while remaining professional, stress-free, efficient, and cool as a cucumber. Okay, we're still working around some general principles and guidelines to help you with dealing with angry customers or emotional customers. And we've covered a number of them in our previous sessions. This one is about risk. And this principle, it deserves its own video segment because it's really important. And the principle is simple. Avoid high risk, high gain behavior. I'm going to tell you what that is in a second, but let me tell you a story. I do a lot of seminars, and people that come talk to me, they often have some really cool stories about what works and doesn't work, and I get to incorporate them in my books, that kind of thing. Anyhow, so we're talking, and one of the participants there tells a story, and this is what he says. He says, I was working in an open kind of storefront thing. It's an office, but people come in to do their business, and it happened to be a government office. This fellow comes in, and he's standing in line waiting. It wasn't a long wait, but it was apparent that this guy was in a hurry, and he was not happy. Anyway, so he has to wait about 3-4 minutes. He gets up to the employee's wicket basically, and throws some papers down and says, why didn't I get my permit approved? And he's very, very nasty. And so the employee looks at it, says, well, sir, here's what you have to do in order to get your approval. This was missing. He's very good handling this. The customer says, well, what the hell is wrong with you? I'm double parked. I can't afford any more time here. I have to run a business. And he goes on and on and on. The employee does very well at diffusing the situation, but it doesn't work. And so the employee says, well, look, sir, if you like, I can help you fill out the remaining forms, and we'll process this. I'll make sure that I get this done as soon as possible. Yeah, that sounds perfectly fine. Doesn't work with the customer. Customer is ranting and raving and waving his hands and making a scene, and meanwhile the other customers are watching this, which is a bit awkward. So in the process of this goes on for a couple minutes. The customer says to the employee, you know what you can do with your goddamn forms? You can roll them up, take them, and shove them where the sun don't shine. Except he didn't quite use sun don't shine. He used a rather crude simile, I guess, which I'm not allowed to repeat here. Well, the employee, who obviously was having a good day, off the top of his head said, sir, I would really like to oblige you on that, but I have 3 filing cabinets and a small truck up there, and I don't think there's any room. Well, what do you think happened? Well, you might be saying the guy laughed. And but that's not actually what he did. You might say the guy exploded because he felt he wasn't being taken seriously. And that's not what happened either. In fact, and we're going to come back to this later on, the guy was completely stunned. Basically, his jaw dropped and he didn't know what to say. Now, that's actually a good thing. Okay, and then he laughed. Then he apologized. And after that, everything was fine. Their future relationship, they never had any more problems. Now, the reason I tell this story is that it's a good example of high risk, high gain behavior. High risk, high gain behavior works like this. When it works really well. When it doesn't work, it explodes. Okay, so you can imagine if this guy, the customer, had felt he was being mocked or otherwise insulted or played with, he could have gone ballistic, and he might have gone to the point of even getting violent. He probably would have complained to the manager and yada yada yada, and no one would have benefited from this. It did turn out that this worked out, which is good. Okay, humor is a high-risk, high-gain type of maneuver. So this was lucky. The employee himself said to me, I would never do that on purpose. It just kind of came out of my mouth, and I'm so glad that it worked. Okay, so he recognized that in this case humor was a risky thing to do. There's another kind of high-risk behavior that's even more serious. And this men tend to do this when they're dealing with customers who kind of get in their face. All right, and this is more common with men. And that is that, for example, you have a customer who says, I'm not leaving this store until I get satisfaction. And the employee kind of gets a little closer and says, yes, you are, sir, I'll throw you out. And then the customer responds and ups the level of violence and says, oh yeah, you just go ahead and try me. This is high risk, high gain. The high risk, of course, is that this is going to escalate into violence, and that's not good for anybody. Okay. The possibility that it works occurs when the employee actually backs down because he's intimidated. Okay. But you can't count on that. So in terms of calling bluff or trying to physically intimidate a customer, never ever do it, even though it might work. Because you never know when that customer is going to have a weapon, a knife, whatever, or whether that customer is actually going to sucker punch you. Okay, so with high risk, high gain behavior, don't be tempted. Humor is dangerous in most situations, although it fits sometimes. And again, later on in the sessions, I'll tell you what kind of humor works and what doesn't. What is high risk and what isn't high risk. Okay? That's it for now. We have, I think, one more principle we're going to talk about before we get into understanding what the angry customer needs to calm down.